We continue now at the top of Daf Tzadi Hey Amar Aleph and Meseches Zevachim. This is Zevachim Daf 95a. On the previous Amud, the Mishnah said if a garment gets the blood from a chatos on it, and then it goes outside of the azora, so the general halach is you have to bring that garment back into the azora and you do the kibus, you do the washing of the garment in the azora. But then the Mishnah said, let's say it goes outside of the azora and becomes tamei. Now it's a problem to bring it back into the azora when it's tamei, and so the solution is you tear the garment, and by tearing the garment, you render it tahor. It's no longer tamei. You're able to bring it back into the azora, and then you wash it in the azora. But the Gemara asked, if you're going to tear the garment, then it doesn't have the status of a garment any longer. It's no longer considered a beged, and really it has to be a beged. You have to be washing the beged in the azora. And so the Gemara said what you do is you tear it, but you leave a part of it untorn. You tear the majority, but you leave a part of it untorn, the size of a small cloth, and then it will still retain the status of a beged, and it will also be tahor, it will also be pure. But the Gemara asked on the previous summer, Rav Huna says that in such a situation, if you leave that amount untorn, it actually is still tamei, so that actually will not be a good solution. And the Gemara answers, midrabanan, who that halacha that it's tamei, it's only tamei on a drabanan level. And Rashi explains, midrabanan gezeira dilma lo asya lemikra ruba. There's a gezeira, maybe you're not going to end up tearing the majority. Aval midoraisa Torah, but on a doraisa level, it actually is pure. It's purified by tearing it. Umutter lahachnisa misham mitzvahs kibus, and therefore it is mutter to bring it into the azara. The Rabbanan did not restrict that, again because of the mitzvah of kibus, of washing the garment. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, klicheres sheyotze, if you have a klicheres, again a similar halacha, the klicheres goes outside of the azar, it has to be brought back into the azara. Let's say a chatos was cooked in the klicheres, so it's brought back into the azara, and it is broken in the azara, and then again a similar halacha, let's say that the klicheres becomes tamei, so then you have to make a hole in it in order to purify it, and then bring it back into the azara, and again then you will break it in the azara. And the Gemara says, Kli amar rachmana v'lo kliu, but again, it's a vessel that you have to bring into the azar and break, and it's not a vessel anymore if you're going to make a hole in it. And the Gemara answers, Shenikev b'shoresh katan, that he makes a hole the size of a small root. We'll see Rashi in a moment. Rashi does not have this entire part of the Gemara in his girsa. We'll see Rashi in a moment on that. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Klina choshes pochso. Also by Klina choshes, it's similar. You make a hole in it, and then you bring it into the azara, and then it's scoured and rinsed. And again, the Gemara says, V'halav klihu, but it's not a kli. And the Gemara says to that, the rotzef mirtzef, what he does is he uses a hammer, and that area where he makes the hole, he actually puts it back together again, and so therefore it is going to be considered to be a kli. And Rashi explains, first Rashi says, Nira be'enai, it appears to me, shechaser min hasvarim, that there are words missing from the svarim. De gabe klicheres lo shayich l'shanuya de mirtzef le mirtzef. By klicheres, you wouldn't have mirtzef, rotzef mirtzef, which is what we actually have by klinachoshes. We don't have that by klicheres anyhow. V'hai shinuya gabe klinachoshesu. That answer, the Gemara is by klinachoshes, which again is how we have the Gemara. V'hachi parach. And the Gemara's question is as follows, pochso kli amar rachmana. Again, if you're going to damage and make a hole in the vessel, it's not a kli. The Torah says it has to be a kli. V'hailav kliu b'shas mariko shtifa. Now at the time of the marika and the shtifa, at the time of the scouring and the rinsing, it's not a kli. Umeshani, and the Gemara then answers, the rotzef le miratzif. Achar shepochso, meaning after he makes that hole, makin olav bekornis, he can bang it with a hammer or mechabro and attach the area where there was a hole. V'chazar shem kli olav, and then the fact that it's called a kli returns. V'gabe klicheres. Now Rashi doesn't have any Gemara on klicheres, so Rashi addresses that himself. V'gabe klicheres ikol memar. By klicheres we can answer as follows: the nikvo de masnisen b'motzi mashkali toher. That in the Mishnah when it says you make a hole, it has to be a hole the size which is able to be motzi mashke, that liquid can come out. Some have the gear so that liquid can come in, but in any case that makes it pure. Va'adayin klihu lekabel zeisim, but it still has the status of a vessel because it's able to receive, it's able to hold olives. B'Mesechet Shabbos, b'Perek HaMatzniyah, that's in Mesechet Shabbos in Perek HaMatzniyah. And the Gemara continues, Amar Reish Lakish says, Me'il shenitzma, if the me'il of the Kohen Gadol, if it becomes tamei, machniso bepachos mishalosh al shalosh umechavso. So there, you really have a problem because you're not allowed to tear the me'il. So therefore, the solution in our Mishnah would not be helpful in such a situation. So instead, what you do is, you enter it little by little into the azara, means to say less than 3 by 3 etzbos, and you wash each small part at a time. Mishum shenamar, because it says in the pasuk, lo yikareya, it says in the pasuk that it is not allowed to be torn. And Rashi explains, Me'il shel Bigdei Kahuna, this is the Me'il of the Bigdei Kahuna, Shanitas olav dam chatas, that again, dam chatas got on the Me'il, v'yotza chutz lakloim, and it left, it went outside of the curtains, v'nitma became tameh, machnis mokum hadam lefnim, he brings in the area of the blood inside the azara, b'pachos mishalosh al shalosh, and again, it's going to be at less than 3 by 3 finger breadths, less than 3 by 3 etzbos, she'eno machnis shir beged tameh le'azara, he cannot bring in the measure, the amount of a beged tameh into the azara, because you're not allowed to tear it. And bring it in. Because again, it says in the pasuk, lo yikareya. And the Gemara continues, Mosiv Ravada Barava asks, this is from a Mishnah Meseches Kalim, it says, ha'ovin v'harachim, it says if you have fabric that's very thick, garments that are very thick, or rachim, you have fabric that's very soft, then ein bohen misham shalosh al shalosh, then that rule of 3 by 3 etzbos is not going to be effective by those kinds of fabric, and so therefore how is 3 by 3 etzbos, how is that helpful? Rashi explains, ha'avim beged av, avim means it's a beged av, it's a thick garment, v'harachin, she'eno oreg, feltera means felt, she'eno oreg, it's not woven, so it's soft. Halacha is, ein bohen misham shalosh al shalosh, they don't have that halach of shalosh al shalosh, delav lelevisha chazu, because you're not able to wear it, v'lav lesakin bohen cholak, and you can't use even that small amount, you can't use that to fix another garment, ela leishev olav, the only thing you can use it is to sit upon it. V'tzarech shlosh al shlosh, and therefore what you really need is shlosh al shlosha, you need to have 3 by 3 tvachim. U'me'il avu, and the question of the Gemara is that a me'il is av, a me'il is thick, kedekayim alon, b'seder yuma, like we say in Meseches Yuma, chuton kafel shnei maser v'afilo shalosh al shalosh yachnis. And so therefore the Gemara is essentially saying, why is it that it has to be less than shalosh al shalosh? It could even be shalosh al shalosh, because the rule really is shlosh al shlosha when it comes to a fabric or a garment which is thick. And the Gemara answers to that, agav avi and chashivi, when we say that there's no halach of shalosh al shalosh if it's a thick fabric, that's if it's by itself, but if it's attached to a larger garment, so then actually it is considered to be chashav already by 3 by 3 etzbos, and that's why you have to be machnas it less than 3 by 3 etzbos at a time. Rashi explains, agav avu and kashu mechuber bebeged, when it's part of a larger garment, chashav gimel al gimel didei, then already the 3 by 3 etzbos is considered to be chashav. And the Gemara continues and asks a general question, v'haboy shivas samimonim, the halacha is that when you wash these garments that, let's say, they get the blood from the chatas on them, so you need to use 7 different detergents in doing that. The Amar of Nachman, Amar Rabbi Bar Avua, because Rav Nachman said that Rabbi Bar Avua said, dam chatas umaros negoim, both by dam chatas, which is our case, and also by the maros negoim, when you have tzoras, also over there needs to be a washing. Tzrichin shiva samamonim, you need to use 7 detergents. V'tanya, we learned in a brisa, elashein machnisin mei raglayim lemikdash, you're not allowed to bring urine into the mikdash, and one of the 7 detergents is actually urine, so how does that work in general? How is this washing done in the Azara? Rashi explains, "V'haboy dam chatas shiva samimonim hashnuim b'Meseches nida." You need the 7 detergents that are learned in Meseches nida, taught in Meseches nida. Linyan kesamim in terms of stains. It's a rok tafel. One of them is rok tafel, which is spit, and it's referring specifically to what's called tasteless spit. Umei raglaim and urine, and then the others are v'neser, uvoris, v'oil, v'kumunya, v'ashleg. Those are the various detergents. V'hechi ma'ilinon mei raglaim la'azara. How can you bring mei raglaim into the azara? You can't bring urine into the azara. V'amasnisin kaparach. This is a general question on the Mishnah. Umarus negoim, when it comes to tzaras, shehizke kakos of nigei begodim lekibus. Let's say tzaras gets on a garment that needs to be washed. Techsiv v'chibsu es asher bo hanog. It says in the pasuk v'chibsu, it has to be washed. V'tanya will end in a brisa bepitum haketoris. This is a brisa in the context of the ketoris. Shein machnisin mei raglaim lemikdash. It says in that brisa that you're not allowed to bring mei raglaim into the mikdash. You can't bring urine into the mikdash, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tzadi Hey Amud Beis.